Here's one cost you may not have considered yet that's going to be a big factor in your decision making, and that is your quarterly power bill. So unless
The majority of Australian cities have officially hit the most unaffordable housing market.
Brace yourselves, because this $300 has never been fucking hammered home so hard.
One more thing I had to say, which is shocking and like insane to me, is the prices here in Australia, and I'm going to be like baffled when I get back to New Zealand.
Welcome to living in Sydney, where electricity is $843. That's
genuinely out of curiosity, like, how is anyone planning to buy a house?
This is how fucked the cost of living is in Australia. $24 for fucking...
The average rent in Sydney is roughly $1,200 a month, and that is if you're lucky to get a $300 per week rental.
The cost of living crisis in Australia is no longer something people talk about occasionally. It has become part of everyday life. For many, each month feels like a struggle to keep up. Rent, housing, groceries, and basic bills are taking up more of people's income than ever before, leaving little room to breathe. Rent is one of the biggest pressures. Finding a place to live has become extremely difficult, and paying for it takes a large portion of monthly earnings. Inspections are crowded, rents keep rising, and many people are forced to share rooms, move frequently, or live far away from work and family. The idea of housing security feels out of reach for many Australians. Grocery prices are another constant worry. What used to be a normal weekly shop now feels expensive and stressful. Basic items like vegetables, milk, bread, and rice cost more, and people are cutting back, switching brands, or skipping items just to stay within budget. For families, students, and workers, food choices are no longer about preference. They are about affordability. These rising costs don't exist alone. Electricity, fuel, transport, and everyday expenses continue to increase, while wages often fail to keep up. The pressure builds, and many people feel tired, anxious, and uncertain about the future. Planning, saving, or even enjoying life feels difficult when basic needs take priority. So stay with us, listen to these voices, and share your own experience. Because the cost of living crisis is not just about money, it's about people, dignity, and everyday survival.
if you are one of the seemingly millions of people who are looking to move to Brisbane for, quality of life, opportunities, rent, whatever it is, here's one cost you may not have considered yet that's going to be a big factor in your decision making, and that is your quarterly power bill. So unless you live in a Queenslander, which is actually not as common as you think, especially with the rental prices and cost of houses being what they are at the moment, which are obviously designed for the heat and humidity with the balconies and big open windows, you are going to need your aircon on 24/7. So
The majority of Australian cities have officially hit the most unaffordable housing market. So Sydney coming in at number 2, I'm from Adelaide number 6 next to Los Angeles. I mean, what the fuck does Adelaide have in common with LA? Melbourne coming in at number 9, Brisbane 11, and Perth 14. That's pretty much the majority of Australia's major cities. No wonder everyone's distressed. No wonder everyone can't afford housing. Living in Australia is officially unaffordable.
So when it came to the budget, I was waiting for the barrage of articles that had the S word in it. And don't get me wrong, they come in thick and fast, and they make sure you know that it is a $9.3 billion S word. But the barrage of headlines I wasn't ready for was the relief on energy headlines. I included this one because I quite liked the picture. It captures Albo nicely. But brace yourselves, because this $300 has never been fucking hammered home so hard. And at a time when $300 is basically a grocery shop for a family, they're really patting themselves on the back and acting like $300 is gonna make a fucking difference. And maybe $3,000 would help, but $300, that's how much people's rent has been put up. Fuck me, Labour. Look at Albo stood there, congratulate. Oh God, it just makes your blood boil. But yeah, if you can't tell, I'm not very happy with the budget outcomes.
One more thing I had to say, which is shocking and like insane to me, is the prices here in Australia. And I'm going to be like baffled when I get back to New Zealand, but Yesterday I went to the supermarket. I got 4 things. I got some like sushi to go, like a little box. I got some crackers. I got deodorant, and I got a drink, I think. Why did it cost me $30? $30 for 4 things. A burger at a restaurant here, $27, $30. Insane. I don't know how people are surviving here, to be honest.
Australians, out of interest, what are our housing plans like this generation? Genuinely, out of curiosity, like, how is anyone planning to buy a house? Obviously, I'm not talking like rural town, but everywhere else, it's like not affordable. In my area, the average house price is probably like $4 million, which is all well and good to have the deposit for, but no bank is going to give me 3.5 mil. Privileged to live in this area, don't get me wrong. Obviously, with a baby coming, I would love to be able to buy a house and move in and stay near my family, but that is not going to happen. Honestly, we're all cooked.
Cost of living matters to Queenslanders, and I want to expose the truth behind government charges that are forcing up the cost of everyday items. I'm going to start with a traditional car. So in Queensland at the moment, for the first time in our history, if you own a 6-cylinder motor car, it's going to cost you more than $20 a week before you even turn the key on. $20 a week to register it and own a licence in Queensland. That is not affordable. That's the government ripping you off.
Welcome to living in Sydney, where electricity is $843. That's if you pay on due date. But if not, it's $1,120. Broke life. Bye.
But the ordinary Australian out there is confronted with ever-growing traffic jams, housing prices are going up, affordability, cost of living. Their quality of life is deteriorating because more and more people are jamming into our cities, and not very many people want to go and live out in the rural and regional areas. So the government's relying on this.
This is how fucked the cost of living is in Australia. $24 for a fucking 30-pack. Get fucked. $8 for a Nutrigrain. Go fuck yourself. $11.50 for sausages. Motherfucker. $7.50 for a few slices of fucking bread.
Bro, the cost of living in Australia is fucked. Check this shit out. $50 for a can of Coke. For 30 cans. Are you fucking for real, cunt? Bro, you gotta be taking the piss. $8.40 for some deodorant. And that's 30% off. Let's say you want to buy some body wash. $20. What is going on? Bro, just seeing that shit, I don't know how it's even possible to live off, minimum wage now. If minimum wage is $24, how are you meant to afford those sorts of things? I just bought 2 steaks and this orange juice, and it cost me $27. What the fuck? But yeah, something definitely needs to fucking change because it's getting out of hand.
So I received an email from our real estate yesterday with our latest tenancy agreement for the next 12 months. So they'll be putting our rent up an extra $40 per week. So that'll bring our total rent for the week to $640. Now, we live in a beautiful location. It's a 4-bedroom home, 2-bathroom, double garage. We're a stone's throw away from the ocean. And I feel with the current rental crisis that is happening in Australia right now, we're actually pretty lucky with what we pay. However, I wanted to crunch some numbers. So for the next 12 months, we'll be paying just over $33,000 in rent. Now, my partner is self-employed, he's a carpenter, and the last 12 months, he has made roughly $70,000. If I take that $33,000, so $33,280 off the $70,000, that leaves us, as a family of 4, with $36,720 to survive on for 12 months. I get paid $136 a fortnight from the government, family tax benefit. $136 is not much to get a fortnight. So that brings our total up to $40,000. Just over $40,000 to spend as a family of 4 for 12 months. Divide that by 52, That leaves us with $775 a week as a family of 4. How the hell are families surviving in this day and age without an additional source of income? Can someone explain it to me? Because honestly, if I didn't have my online business, there is no way in hell we would be able to afford where we live, what we eat. And I know people are going to come back to me and say, well, why don't you just go back to work? Why should I have to go back to work? I have an 18-month-old son and an 8-week-old daughter who are solely relying on me. And why should I have to go back to work and give up my right as a mother to raise my children? Just so we can survive, just so I can afford to put them into daycare. I feel like now more than ever, it is so important to let people know that there are other options out there, that they don't have to settle for a life of struggle, that, you know, mothers can stay home, raise their children and still bring in another source of income. Forever be grateful that I took a chance on myself a little over a year ago and started my online business, because I would absolutely hate to see where we would be as a family of 4 if I didn't.
I had a very sad conversation today with a former client of mine. This person has really struggled and had a terrible and difficult life, and they've had problems in and out of the law for a very long time. But for the last few years, they were doing really well. They had found some stability, they had found some space that was safe, they were moving forward. But because of the cost of living crisis here in Australia, they have ended up having to ration their medication. And because they were not getting the medicine they needed, their mental health became unstable, and they did something completely completely out of character, and they're now in legal trouble. And it's just horrible that somebody who's doing all the right things and just doing their best to keep it together ends up in that position because the price of medicine becomes too expensive. And it just breaks your heart. You go, well, that's just not okay. And the saddest part is the sense of helplessness, this, idea that at least maybe in custody I'll have food in my belly and they'll give me medicine and I'll feel safe. It'll be less awful to be there than it is to be out here. And I deal with people on the margins, and let me just say, be kind. If you have anything extra, share it, because it's tough out there right now, and people who are barely hanging on, they just don't have the strength to hold on anymore. Follow me for more legal TikTok.
What have I been warning Australians about for nearly 3 decades? The high immigration coming to this country. It has been overwhelmed in this last 3 years under the Albanese Greens government. In 1 year, nearly 750,000 people have come in. We displaced people living in their cars, couch surfing, living in tents, living under bridges. This is not the Australia that I want. High immigration, you even complained about it. You felt the effects of it. It has affected our housing. For young kids, can't afford it. We've allowed foreign investment, owning our own houses here. What has it done? Raised the cost of housing. The only way Australians can actually get their own housing now is to go to the mum and dad bank, because otherwise you can't get the deposit. It is out of control. Rein back our high immigration levels, reduce them till we can actually get some common sense that's happening out there, so we can get Australians into the housing. They deserve it. It's their country. We shouldn't be looking after migrants because they want to come here. By all means, I'm not against immigration, but do it in a balanced, managed way and ensure that Australians have a roof over their head first.
If you're planning to move to Australia, I believe it's important for you to know that Australia is in the middle of housing and cost of living crisis. I don't usually talk about this because it's really stressful, but I think it's important for you to know and consider this before you make any decision. The cost of goods are going up because of inflation, but what's hurting the most is the endless interest rate hikes. Whether you're paying a mortgage or rent, the interest rates went so high that people are paying more than $1,000 a month on their mortgage repayments or their rent. At the start of 2022, we were paying $3,600 a month, and now we're close to paying $5,000 each month on our mortgage repayments. And there's a lot of us who are on the same boat. Even landlords are unable to keep up that they need to increase their rental fees. Hearing stories of people who are now paying $300 more a week on their rent. $300 a week, that's $1,200 a month. God. Whilst some people are able to manage this crisis, some are unable to and are forced out of their property. I don't mean to stress or scare you. I'm just telling you the current situation. So before you go here, please do your research and secure your accommodation if you can. If you can stay with a friend or a family member, that would be good because it's very hard to find a rental property, especially near the city, and it's very expensive. I hope you like this content and I hope you're not confused. How much is the cost of living in Australia? Cost of living will be different depending where you are, which state you live in, your status, how many kids you have if you're single or you're married. Of course, a cost of living of a single person will be different from the cost of living of a person who has kids or dogs. But for this video, let's assume you're single and you are living in Sydney. And we'll talk about the cost of basic needs like housing, food or groceries, utilities, transportation, phone, and other needs. The average rent in Sydney is roughly $1,200 a month, and that is if you're lucky to get a $300 per week rental in Sydney. There's actually a rental crisis at the moment. And of course, if you're coming here in Australia for the very first time, you will not rent and pay for $300 a week, because that is expensive, and the best thing to do is to find someone to share that room. Next will be the cost of food and groceries. Again, this will be very different depending on how much you eat or how smart you are in grocery shopping. But on the average, Australians spend $150 a week on food and groceries. Next, transportation. Transportation fares will be different depending if you take the train or the bus. For this video, let's just assume that you'll be taking the train to work every single day for 5 days. If you live within 10 kilometers of Sydney, the fare is $3.79 one way. Times 2, it will be $7.50, and times 20 days, it will be roughly $150 a month. And that is if you don't go to the city every weekend to roam around. Now we go to utilities, and again, this will be very different depending on your consumption. But according to this website, the average utilities is roughly $200 a month. That is including power or electricity, water, gas, and other bills. And that is for the basic cost or basic expenses. Of course, you need a mobile phone. You can either get a SIM-only plan or a mobile data plan or a plan with a phone. And I will just put in $35 each month for your monthly phone bill. And that's it. So that basically covers your basic expenses. That doesn't include healthcare. So if you don't hold a PR visa in Australia, you have to pay for your own healthcare. And if you are on a minimum wage, can you afford the basic living cost in Australia? Anyway, I hope you like this content and I hope you're not confused.
As we come to the end of this video, it's clear that the cost of living crisis in Australia is not just a financial issue, it's a human one. The stories and experiences shared here show how deeply rising costs are affecting everyday life. Behind every statistic is a person trying to manage, adjust, and survive in an increasingly expensive environment. Rent and housing stress stand at the center of this crisis. Many people are paying more than they ever imagined just to keep a roof over their heads. Finding a rental has become competitive and exhausting, with crowded inspections and limited options. For some, it means sharing spaces they never planned to share. For others, it means moving far from work, family, or support systems. Housing, which should offer safety and stability, has become a source of constant worry. Grocery prices add another layer of pressure. Simple trips to the supermarket now come with stress and calculation. People are checking prices carefully, switching to cheaper brands, buying less, or skipping items altogether. What should be basic nourishment has become a financial decision. For families, students, and individuals alike, food choices are no longer about preference or health. They are about affordability. These challenges do not exist in isolation. Rising energy bills, fuel costs, transport expenses, and everyday services continue to increase, while wages often fail to keep pace. This imbalance leaves many people feeling stuck. Saving money, planning for the future, or enjoying life feels difficult when so much income goes toward basic needs. One of the hardest parts of this crisis is the emotional toll it takes. Constant financial stress leads to anxiety, exhaustion, and a sense of uncertainty. Many people feel embarrassed to talk about their struggles or worry that they will be judged. But what these stories show is that this struggle is widespread. It is not about poor decisions or lack of effort. It is about rising costs affecting everyday people. This video was created to give space to real voices, not to blame, argue, or create fear, but to build understanding and awareness. When people speak openly about their experiences, it helps others feel less alone. It also reminds communities and decision makers that the cost of living crisis is impacting real lives in very real ways. If you are watching this and dealing with rent stress, high grocery prices, or financial pressure, please remember that you are not alone. Many people are facing similar challenges, even if they don't talk about them openly. Feeling overwhelmed does not mean you are failing. It means the situation is difficult. And if you are someone who is not directly affected right now, listening still matters. Understanding these experiences helps build empathy. A society where people struggle to afford housing and food affects everyone, from workplaces and schools to healthcare and community well-being. If you want more honest conversations about cost of living, housing, and everyday life in Australia, the cost of living crisis will not be solved overnight. But conversations like this matter. They bring attention to lived experiences and remind us that behind rising prices are real people doing their best. Thank you for watching till the end. Thank you to everyone who shared their story, and thank you for listening. Until next time, take care of yourself, support one another, and remember, everyone deserves a fair chance at stability, security,